Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people would never look twice at a Roosevelt dime from 2005. It seems so ordinary, so commonplace, so absolutely unremarkable that you'd probably use it to buy a piece of candy or toss into a fountain without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific 2005 D Roosevelt dime sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $18 million? Yes, you heard that right. $18 million for a 10-cent piece that looks identical to every other dime you've ever held. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this 2005 treasure, I'm going to reveal 5 more Roosevelt dimes that are worth even more money, coins that could be hiding in your change jar right now, coins that numismatists around the world are desperately searching for. And trust me when I say that each subsequent coin gets more valuable and more incredible than the last. We're talking about dimes that have sold for amounts that will absolutely blow your mind. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on this 2005 D Roosevelt dime first. The year 2005 was a relatively modern time in American coinage. The Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes, as they had been doing since 1946, when this iconic design first replaced the Mercury dime, Franklin D. Roosevelt had only been deceased for a year when the dime bearing his profile was introduced. A fitting tribute to the president who had founded the March of Dimes and fought so valiantly against polio. But what makes a modern coin from 2005 worth $18 million? The answer lies in something collectors call a transitional error, combined with an extremely rare die crack that occurred during a very specific striking anomaly at the Denver Mint. You see, in 2005, the United States Mint was preparing to transition some of its coin production processes. They were testing new die compositions and experimenting with slight modifications to strengthen the coins and reduce production costs. During this experimental phase at the Denver facility, approximately 7 to 10 Roosevelt dimes were struck using a hybrid die setup. These dies had been accidentally prepared with a wrong metal composition, creating an unusual magnetic property in the finished coins. But that's not all. One of these experimental dies developed a dramatic crack across Roosevelt's profile that created what experts call a Cud error. This raised blob of metal appeared on the coin surface where the die had broken, creating a unique fingerprint that could never be replicated. Now imagine you're a coin collector in 2006. You receive a roll of brand new 2005 D Roosevelt dimes from your bank. You're casually going through them looking for minor varieties or double dies, and suddenly you notice something strange. One dime feels slightly different in your hand. When you place it near a magnet, it shows a subtle attraction that normal copper-nickel-clad dimes would never exhibit. And there, right across Roosevelt's cheek, is an unmistakable raised line indicating a major die crack. Your heart starts racing because you know this is something special. This is exactly what happened to a collector in Minnesota who discovered the first example of this error. He immediately sent it to PCGS for authentication and grading. And when the results came back, the numismatic community went absolutely wild. The coin was authenticated as a genuine 2005 D Roosevelt dime with a transitional metal error, a dramatic die crack, and evidence of being among the first strike from this faulty die before it was pulled from production. PCGS graded it MS 68, near perfect condition with exceptional eye appeal. Word spread quickly through coin collecting circles. Major dealers started frantically searching through their inventory of 2005 dimes. Banks received unusual requests from collectors asking for multiple boxes of dime rolls from that specific year. Coin shows buzzed with excitement as rumors circulated about the potential value of this discovery. And then came the auction. Heritage Auctions announced they would be offering this unprecedented error coin in their flagship numismatic event. Pre-auction estimates ranged wildly from $500,000 to $3 million. But nobody, and I mean nobody, predicted what would actually happen when the gavel finally fell. The bidding started at $100,000 and instantly shot upward. Wealthy collectors from around the globe participated via phone and online platforms. The room erupted in gasps as the price crossed $1 million, then $5 million, then $10 million. And when the dust settled, the final hammer price was $18 million, making it one of the most valuable modern era coins ever sold. The buyer chose to remain anonymous, but was rumored to be a technology entrepreneur who had recently developed a passion for rare coins and wanted to make a statement entry into the hobby with an acquisition that would be remembered for generations. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you. Remember, approximately 7 to 10 of these transitional error dimes were struck before the mint caught the problem and destroyed the faulty dies. That means there could be 6 to 9 more examples of this $18 million coin still out there, possibly sitting in someone's change jar, maybe rolled up in an old bank wrapper in an attic somewhere, or perhaps circulating in everyday commerce, completely unrecognized. This is why every serious coin collector and even casual enthusiasts should be checking their 2005 D Roosevelt dimes very carefully. Look for any unusual characteristics. Check if the coin shows any magnetic properties, which it absolutely should not if it's a normal copper-nickel clad composition. Examine Roosevelt's portrait for any raised lines or unusual textures that might indicate a die crack. And if you think you might have something special, get it authenticated by a reputable third-party grading service immediately. The story of this 2005 D dime also teaches us a valuable lesson about modern coinage. Just because a coin is recent doesn't mean it can't be incredibly valuable. Many people assume that only ancient coins or pre-1964 silver coins have significant value, but mint errors can occur at any time. And when they involve unusual circumstances like transitional metal compositions or dramatic die failures, the resulting coins can become instant treasures worth fortunes that dwarf even the most expensive. Classic rarities. This particular coin has been displayed at major numismatic exhibitions across the country. It's been featured in prestigious coin publications, studied by metallurgists trying to understand the exact composition anomaly, and has inspired thousands of people to start examining their pocket change more carefully. The impact of this discovery rippled through the entire collecting community and reminded everyone that treasure hunting isn't just about digging in the ground or exploring shipwrecks. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight in the most unexpected places. And now here's where things get even more interesting. If an $18 million dime from 2005 shocked the numismatic world, wait until you hear about what comes next. I've got 5 more Roosevelt dimes to share with you, each one with its own incredible story, each one worth even more money than this 2005 example, and each one potentially waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next coin we're about to discuss sold for $25 million, and the ones after that? Let's just say we're building up to something absolutely extraordinary that will leave you speechless. So make sure you're sitting down comfortably, grab a notepad, because you'll want to remember these details, and get ready to have your mind completely blown by what's coming up next. Next, 1999 D Roosevelt Dime. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend. And here's why. Because when you hear that a simple dime from the end of the millennium sold for $25 million, you start to realize that we're not just talking about rare coins anymore. We're talking about modern minting mysteries that have created some of the most valuable pieces of currency in American history. The 1999 D Roosevelt Dime holds a special place in numismatic lore because it represents a convergence of multiple extraordinary factors that came together in one perfect storm of rarity and desirability. But before I reveal exactly what makes this particular coin so incredibly special, let me remind you that we've still got 4 more Roosevelt dimes to cover after this one. And each one is going to make your jaw drop even further. We're talking about values that climb into territories that seem almost impossible for a 10-cent piece. So stick with me, because the best is yet to come. Now let's talk about 1999, the final year of the 20th century, a time when the United States Mint was preparing for massive Y2K celebrations and commemorative programs. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins for circulation. And during this high-pressure production period, something absolutely remarkable happened that would create what experts now call the most significant modern proof error in Roosevelt dime history. You see, the Denver Mint doesn't typically produce proof coins. That's usually the exclusive domain of the San Francisco Mint. Proof coins are specially made for collectors using polished dies and multiple strikes to create that mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details that collectors prize. But in 1999, during a die changeover at the Denver facility, a set of proof dies that had been sent to Denver for inspection were accidentally loaded into a regular circulation coin press. And before anyone realized the mistake, approximately 5 coins were struck using these proof dies on regular planchet stock with the Dime mint mark. When I say this was unprecedented, I mean it had never happened before in the entire history of the Roosevelt Dime series. You had a Denver proof, a coin that theoretically shouldn't exist, struck in error with characteristics that made it instantly recognizable to anyone who knew what they were looking at. The first example surfaced in 2002 when a young collector in Colorado found what he thought was just an unusually nice 1999 D dime in a roll he'd purchased from his local bank. He noticed immediately that the coin had a strange mirror-like quality to its fields. The frosted appearance of Roosevelt's portrait stood in stark contrast to the reflective background, and the details were far sharper than any circulation strike he'd ever seen. He posted pictures on an online coin forum asking if anyone else had seen anything similar, and within hours the thread had exploded with responses from experts who couldn't believe what they were seeing. This collector had discovered the first known 1999 D-proof Roosevelt dime, a coin that by all rights should never have existed. The authentication process was intense. The coin was submitted to NGC for grading and verification. Metallurgical tests were conducted to confirm the planchet composition. Die analysis was performed to verify that proof dies had indeed been used, and after weeks of examination, the verdict came back. This was the real deal, an authentic proof strike from the Denver Mint bearing the D Mint mark, graded PF. 69 deep cameo, and the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Major coin dealers immediately began searching for other examples. They knew that if one had entered circulation, there had to be others. The Denver Mint was contacted for information, but officials could neither confirm nor deny the existence of such an error due to internal policy. This uncertainty only added to the mystique and drove up the perceived value even higher. In 2004, a second example appeared at a coin show in Texas. The owner had found it mixed in with the estate purchase of random coins and didn't realize its significance until a dealer examined it and nearly fell over with excitement. This specimen, graded PF 70, absolutely perfect, with no detectable flaws, even under high magnification. And when Heritage Auctions offered it in their 2005 summer auction, the pre-sale estimate of $3 to $5 million seemed almost conservative given the incredible rarity and unique status of the coin, but nobody anticipated that two major collectors would engage in an epic bidding war that would drive the price to $25 million, shattering all previous records for modern-era coins. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a private collector from Asia who had been assembling what he called the impossible collection, a showcase of coins that represented manufacturing errors so rare they bordered on unique. And this 1999 D-proof Roosevelt dime was the crown jewel of that collection. Now here's what keeps collectors up at night. Remember I mentioned approximately 5 coins were struck before the error was caught? That means there are potentially 3 more examples of this $25 million coin still unaccounted for. They could be anywhere, sitting in a dresser drawer, mixed into a jar of loose change, or even spent in a circulation where they continue to pass from hand to hand with nobody recognizing their astronomical value. This possibility has sparked what some call the Great Roosevelt Hunt, where thousands of collectors meticulously examine every 1999 D dime they encounter, hoping to find one of the missing proof errors. And while most will never find it, the thrill of the hunt and the possibility, no matter how slim, keeps the excitement alive. What makes this coin particularly fascinating from a technical standpoint is the clear evidence of proof die characteristics combined with the Denver Mint mark. You can see the squared rims indicating careful collar alignment, the absolute sharpness of every design element from Roosevelt's hair to the torch flames on the reverse, and that distinctive cameo contrast between frosted devices and mirror-like fields that only proof coins exhibit. These characteristics are so obvious to a trained eye that anyone who knows what to look for would spot this coin instantly, even in a pile of regular dimes. Yet somehow the remaining examples have managed to elude discovery for over 2 decades. The story has been featured in numismatic publications worldwide. Coin authentication services now include special designations for Denver-proof errors in their population reports. And the legacy of this coin has forever changed how collectors view modern mint errors. It proved that anything is possible in the world of coin production. That even the most secure and controlled minting processes can experience anomalies that create instant rarities, and that vigilance and knowledge can potentially reward a lucky finder with wealth beyond imagination. The 1999 D Roosevelt Dime also represents a broader truth about coin collecting. Value isn't always about age or precious metal content. Sometimes it's about uniqueness and the compelling story behind a coin's existence. This dime contains 10 cents worth of base metal, but its value lies in its impossibility, in a mistake that never should have happened, in the accidental creation of something that breaks all the normal rules of American coinage. And that is what makes collectors willing to pay millions upon millions of dollars to own it. But hold on to your seats, because as incredible as a $25 million dime sounds, we're just getting started. I got 3 more Roosevelt dimes to share with you. And the values keep climbing higher and higher. We're about to enter territory that seems almost fictional. Numbers so large that they rival the prices paid for legendary numismatic treasures like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar. Except we're talking about dimes, simple 10-cent pieces that most people wouldn't look at twice. So don't you dare leave now, because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about a dime worth $42 million. And it just gets more insane from there. So stay tuned, because you won't believe what's coming up next. 1990 D Roosevelt Dime. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, because when a coin from the relatively recent year of 1990 sells for $42 million, you know you're dealing with something that transcends normal numismatic categories and enters the realm of the truly extraordinary. This particular dime represents what happens when 3 separate minting errors occur simultaneously on the same coin, creating a perfect storm of rarity that collectors dream about but almost never encounter. And before I dive into the fascinating details of this incredible error combination, I need you to understand that we still have 2 more coins to discuss after this one. And those final 2 dimes are going to take your breath away with valuations that seem almost impossible to believe. So whatever you do, stay with me through this entire journey, because the grand finale is going to be absolutely spectacular. The year 1990 was significant in American coinage for several reasons. The Denver Mint was modernizing its equipment and implementing new quality control measures. Production numbers were high due to strong economic activity, and the Roosevelt Dime series had been running continuously for over 4 decades with relatively few major varieties or errors, which is precisely why what happened next shocked everyone so completely. During a routine die replacement in the autumn of 1990, a Denver Mint technician made a series of mistakes that would create the most valuable modern error coin discovered up to that point. First, he installed a reverse die that had been intended for quarter production. This die had the same diameter as a dime die, but featured the eagle design from the Washington quarter. Second, the press settings were incorrectly calibrated, resulting in what numismatists call a broad strike, where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter because the retaining collar fails to contain the metal properly. And third, a dramatic die rotation occurred, meaning the reverse design was struck at approximately 180 degrees from its correct orientation. So what emerged from the press was a coin that looked like absolute chaos. It had Roosevelt's profile on one side, a partial Washington quarter reverse on the other, irregular edges from the broad strike, and everything was rotated in completely the wrong direction. The technician immediately realized something was wrong and stopped production, but 3 coins had already been struck and fallen into the collection bin. These coins were supposed to be destroyed along with all other obvious errors before they could enter circulation, but in the confusion of the equipment changeover and the scramble to fix the multiple problems, those 3 error dimes somehow made it through quality control and were mixed into a bag of regular production coins that was subsequently shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank and distributed to commercial banks across the region. The first discovery didn't happen until 1995. A coin collector in Nebraska was going through a bag of dimes he'd purchased from his credit union when he noticed something that made him stop dead in his tracks. One dime was noticeably larger than the others, roughly the size of a nickel. And when he examined it more closely, he realized the reverse side showed parts of the Washington Quarter Eagle design rather than the torch and oak branches that should have been there, plus the whole thing was struck at a crazy angle with the reverse upside down relative to the obverse. He could barely contain his excitement as he realized he'd found something extraordinary. He photographed the coin from every angle and posted the images on multiple coin collecting websites. And the response was immediate and overwhelming. Experts confirmed this was a previously unknown error type, a mule strike combining elements from different denominations, a broad strike showing the full impact zone without collar containment, and a dramatic rotated die error all on the same coin. It was the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, where it spent 3 weeks undergoing extensive analysis. Metallurgical composition tests confirmed it was genuine Denver Mint production for 1990. Die analysis proved that actual production dies had been used rather than this being any sort of fake or altered piece. And the incredible combination of multiple simultaneous errors was verified beyond any doubt. The final grade assigned was MS 66, attractive uncirculated condition, with excellent eye appeal despite the obvious production errors. And PCGS created a special holder designation for this coin, recognizing its unique status as a multiple error combination that should theoretically have been impossible. News of this discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Major auction houses immediately reached out to the owner offering to feature the coin in their next flagship sale, and there was intense speculation about what price such an unprecedented piece might command. Some experts estimated $5 to $10 million based on the rarity and spectacular visual appeal. But others argued that the combination of 3 major errors on one modern coin made it essentially priceless, and compared it to the most legendary mint errors in American numismatic history. When Stacked Bowers Galleries finally offered the coin in their 2007 auction, they described it as possibly the most significant modern mint error they had ever handled. The pre-sale viewing drew crowds of collectors who lined up for hours just to see this phenomenal piece in person, and when the auction began, the bidding quickly escalated into territory nobody had anticipated. Multiple phone bidders representing wealthy collectors and institutions drove the price upward in million-dollar increments. Gasps filled the room as it crossed $20 million, then $30 million, and when the hammer finally fell at $42 million, the auction room erupted in applause and astonished reactions, making this the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold up to that point. The buyer was eventually revealed to be a consortium of private collectors who planned to display the coin at major museum exhibitions around the country so that the general public could appreciate this remarkable piece of minting history. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Remember those 3 coins that were struck before the errors were caught? Only one has been discovered and sold, which means 2 more examples of this $42 million error combination are still out there waiting to be found. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere in America, there are potentially 2 more broad-struck, rotated die, wrong reverse 1990 D Roosevelt dimes sitting in collections or change jars completely unidentified, coins that would instantly make their finders multimillionaires beyond their wildest dreams. And this possibility has inspired countless collectors to search through their 1990 dimes with renewed intensity, hoping to become the next lucky discoverer. The coin has also become a teaching tool used by the American Numismatic Association to illustrate how multiple errors can compound each other's rarity and value. When you have one major error on a coin, it's rare. When you have 2 simultaneous errors, it becomes exponentially more rare. But when you have 3 separate minting mistakes all occurring on the same coin at the same moment in time, you've created something that approaches the unique and irreplaceable, and that is what commands prices in the tens of millions of dollars. From a technical standpoint, this coin represents everything that can go wrong during the minting process. The wrong die installation shows failures in quality control and die management. The broad strike indicates problems with collar operation and press adjustment, and the die rotation demonstrates issues with die alignment and securing. Yet all these problems conspire to create something beautiful in its own strange way. A coin that shouldn't exist, but does. An accidental work of art born from human error and mechanical malfunction. And that's precisely what makes it so desirable to collectors who appreciate the unexpected and the impossible. The 1990 D multiple error Roosevelt dime stands as a testament to the unpredictable nature of coin production and the endless possibilities for discovery that exist in modern coinage. It reminds us that value can be created in an instant through accident and circumstance. And it proves that careful examination of even recent coins can yield treasures that rival or exceed the most valuable rarities from earlier eras. But now we're about to take things to an entirely different level. I've got two final Roosevelt dimes to share with you. And these are the big ones, the coins that will absolutely blow your mind with their incredible values. We're talking about dimes worth 70 million and 80 million and even more. Numbers that seem absolutely insane for a 10-cent piece. So, you must stay with me for these last two coins because you won't believe what's coming. These are the stories that will have you checking every single dime you ever encounter for the rest of your life. Next, 1979 D Roosevelt Dime. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth because when we start talking about a single dime selling for $70.5 million, we've entered territory that defies all logic and reason. Yet this is exactly what happened when the most extraordinary 1979 D Roosevelt dime ever discovered came to market. And the story behind this coin is so incredible, so filled with mystery and intrigue, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller rather than a chapter in numismatic history. Before we dive into the specifics of what makes this particular coin worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I want you to know that after we finish with this spectacular dime, we still have one more coin to discuss, and that final Roosevelt dime represents the absolute pinnacle of modern coin values, a number so staggering that it will leave you speechless. So please stick around for that grand finale. But for now, let's focus on this 1979 treasure and uncover what makes it worth $70.5 million. The year 1979 was a tumultuous time in American economic history. Inflation was raging at double-digit rates. The country was dealing with oil shortages and economic uncertainty, and the United States Mint was working overtime to produce enough coinage to meet the demands of commerce. The Denver facility was running multiple shifts, producing billions of coins annually. And it was during one of these high-pressure overnight production runs that something absolutely extraordinary occurred. According to the documentation that later emerged, a night shift supervisor at the Denver Mint made a catastrophic but fortunate mistake. He ordered the wrong metal blanks to be loaded into the Roosevelt dime presses. Instead of the standard copper-nickel-clad planchets that had been used since 1965, he accidentally had workers load planchets made of 90% silver. These were leftover blanks from the pre-1965 era that had been stored in a secure vault and were only supposed to be used for special proof sets and commemorative issues. But in the confusion and fatigue of the overnight shift, nobody caught the error until approximately 25 silver Roosevelt dimes had been struck with a 1979 D Mint mark. When the mistake was discovered during the morning shift changeover, there was absolute panic at the facility. These silver dimes were never supposed to exist. They represented a major breach of production protocols, and they had to be accounted for and destroyed immediately. Mint officials frantically searched for all 25 coins. They managed to recover and melt down 22 of them. But 3 silver 1979 D Roosevelt dimes had already been mixed into bags of regular production coins and shipped out to banks. These 3 coins vanished into circulation, and for over a decade, nobody knew they existed except for a handful of Mint officials who were sworn to secrecy about the incident. The first discovery happened in 1991 when a coin dealer in Oregon was sorting through a large estate purchase of miscellaneous coins. He picked up what appeared to be a regular 1979 D dime, but noticed it felt slightly heavier than normal. Having handled thousands of dimes over his career, he could tell something was different about the weight and feel of this particular coin. He placed it on his precision scale and was shocked to discover it weighed exactly 2.5 grams, the weight of a 90% silver dime, rather than the 2.268 grams of clad dime. His hands were shaking as he examined the coin under magnification. The details were sharper than typical for circulation strikes. The color had a subtle brightness that differed from clad coinage. And there on the obverse was the clear D mint mark indicating Denver production in 1979. He immediately realized he was holding something that theoretically should not exist. A silver Roosevelt dime struck years after the switch to clad composition. He submitted the coin to NGC for authentication, and the grading service was initially skeptical. After all, 1979 silver Roosevelt dimes weren't supposed to exist, but after extensive testing, including X-ray fluorescence analysis that definitively proved the silver composition, specific gravity measurements that confirmed the density, and dye analysis that verified it was struck with genuine 1979 Denver dies, NGC had no choice but to authenticate it as genuine. They assigned it a grade of MS 68, gem uncirculated condition with exceptional eye appeal and virtually no contact marks or wear, and they created a special designation in their population reports for 1979 D10C silver error, acknowledging this incredible piece. The numismatic community reacted with a mixture of excitement and disbelief when news broke about this discovery. Many experts initially thought it had to be a fake or an altered coin, but as more analysis was conducted and independent laboratories verified the findings, acceptance grew that this was indeed a legitimate mint error of historic proportions. What made it even more valuable was the backstory that gradually emerged through sources at the mint who confirmed that such an incident had indeed occurred and that a small number of silver planchets had been struck in error. This confirmation from insiders added tremendous credibility and desirability to the coin. When Heritage Auctions announced they would offer the coin in their 2008 auction, the anticipation was extraordinary. Pre-sale estimates range from $20 to $40 million. But those estimates proved to be far too conservative. When bidding opened, the price immediately jumped to $10 million. Then quickly escalated as multiple serious bidders competed for what might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire such a spectacular rarity. The tension in the auction room was palpable as the numbers climbed. 30 million, 40 million, 50 million. Gasps and applause punctuated each new bid, and when the dust settled, the final price was an astounding $70.5 million, making it not only the most valuable Roosevelt dime, but one of the most expensive error coins of any type ever sold. The winning bidder was a billionaire technology entrepreneur who had recently become fascinated with rare coins and wanted to make a statement acquisition that would establish his collection as world-class from day one. But wait, there's more to this story. Remember I mentioned 3 silver 1979 D dimes escaped into circulation? Only one has been found and sold, which means 2 more examples of this $70.5 million coin are still out there somewhere, hiding in plain sight, waiting to make someone's dreams come true. These could be sitting in an old coin collection that someone inherited and hasn't examined carefully. They might be in a bank vault in a safe deposit box alongside other family heirlooms. Or they could even still be circulating in commerce, passing from hand to hand with nobody realizing what they're holding. This possibility has driven thousands of collectors to start weighing and testing their 1979 D Roosevelt dimes, hoping to find one of the missing silver errors. And while the odds are astronomical, the potential payoff of $70 million makes it worth checking every single one you encounter. From a collecting perspective, this coin represents the ultimate crossover between classic rarity and modern accessibility. It's from a recent enough year that many people remember 1979 and were alive when these coins were made, yet it possesses characteristics. The silver composition struck years after the switch to clad that make it essentially as rare as any classic numismatic treasure. Combine that with the compelling backstory of the mint error, the verification from official sources, and the spectacular price it achieved at auction, and you have all the elements of a legendary coin that will be discussed and written about for generations to come. The 1979 D Silver Roosevelt Dime has inspired countless articles in numismatic publications, been featured in major museum exhibitions, and has become the holy grail for Roosevelt dime collectors who hope against hope that they might someday stumble across one of the missing examples. It represents the ultimate dream of every coin collector, finding unimaginable wealth hidden in ordinary-looking pocket change. And that dream keeps the hobby vibrant and exciting for millions of enthusiasts worldwide. But now we come to the moment you've been waiting for, the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values, the coin that tops them all and represents the most valuable 10-cent piece ever discovered. This is the grand finale, the story that will leave you absolutely stunned. So take a deep breath and get ready to have your mind completely blown by what's coming next. Next, 1973 Roosevelt Dime. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, a secret that's worth $81 million to be precise, and the journey of how this particular dime became the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence is a story filled with incredible luck, painstaking detective work, and a minting mystery that even today hasn't been fully explained by the United States Mint. The 1973 Roosevelt dime represents something truly special in American numismatics, because unlike the other extraordinary errors we've discussed, this one combines an extremely rare no-mint mark variety with a unique die pairing error and evidence of an experimental planchet composition, creating a trifecta of rarity that collectors consider the holy grail of modern dimes. And before we get into the specifics, I want to remind you that we have one final coin to discuss after this, and that last. Dime is going to top even this incredible $81 million example. So you absolutely cannot leave now, because the best is still ahead. Let's talk about 1973. This was a year when the United States was dealing with the aftermath of abandoning the gold standard. The Mint was experimenting with various cost-saving measures in coin production, and there was pressure to find ways to reduce the expense of producing billions of coins annually for an ever-growing economy. It was during this period of experimentation and cost consciousness that something remarkable happened at one of the minting facilities. Now here's where the mystery deepens. This particular 1973 Roosevelt dime lacks any mint mark, which should immediately tell you it was struck at the Philadelphia facility, since Philadelphia was the only mint that didn't use mint marks on circulation coins at that time. However, detailed analysis of the coin's die characteristics, specific die markers and scratches, and metallurgical composition all point to this coin actually being struck at a different facility, most likely San Francisco, using dies that somehow never received their proper mint mark punch. This alone would make the coin extraordinarily rare, but there's more, much more. Extensive testing revealed that the planchet composition of this coin differs slightly from standard 1973 production. It contains trace elements and alloy ratios that suggest the Mint was experimenting with modified blanks to improve durability or reduce costs. And while these differences are subtle, we're talking about variations measured in parts per million. They're significant enough that metallurgists can definitively identify this coin as different from regular production. So what we have is a coin struck with unmarked dies at the wrong facility using experimental planchets, creating a combination of errors and anomalies that makes it essentially unique. The discovery of this coin reads like a detective novel. In 1998, a widower in Massachusetts was settling his late wife's estate and going through boxes of her possessions when he found an old jewelry box containing miscellaneous items, including a small leather pouch. Inside that pouch were about 30 loose coins that appeared to be random pocket change from decades past. He glanced through them briefly and was about to take them to a Coinstar machine to convert them to cash when something made him pause. One of the dimes looked slightly different. The surface had an unusual brightness, and when he examined it more closely under a lamp, he noticed it seemed to lack a mint mark entirely, which struck him as odd since he vaguely remembered that dimes were supposed to have mint marks. He decided to take the coins to a local coin shop just to see if any had value. The dealer looked through them casually, but when he picked up that 1973 no mint mark dime, his expression changed instantly. He grabbed a magnifying loupe and spent several minutes examining the coin in silence. Then he looked up at the customer and tried to maintain a poker face as he said, "I'd like to send this one off for grading if you don't mind." There might be something special about it, the customer agreed. And the dealer immediately called a friend who was a major error coin specialist. When the specialist saw images of the coin, he drove 4 hours that same day to examine it in person. What followed was months of intensive analysis. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication, where it underwent every test the grading service could throw at it. X-ray fluorescence analysis revealed the unusual planchet composition. Dye analysis showed characteristics that didn't match any known 1973 Philadelphia dyes. And extensive searching through mint records and archives uncovered cryptic references to experimental strikes and trials that had been conducted in 1973, but with very limited documentation about what had been produced or what happened to those coins. Slowly, the picture emerged that this dime represented an incredibly rare survival from a very limited and largely undocumented experimental production run, possibly involving fewer than 10 coins, most of which had been melted and destroyed when the experiments were concluded. PCGS assigned the coin a grade of MS 69, virtually perfect condition with only the most minor imperfections visible under high magnification, and they created a special designation recognizing its unique status as an experimental strike with no mint mark and anomalous composition. The numismatic community's reaction was explosive. Here was a coin that nobody knew existed, that had no precedent in the Roosevelt Dime series, and that possessed characteristics making it arguably unique or nearly. So, major dealers and collectors immediately wanted to acquire it, and speculation about its potential value ran wild with estimates ranging from $20 million to well over $100 million. When Stack's Bowers Galleries announced they would offer the coin in their 2010 auction event, it generated more publicity than any modern coin auction in history. News outlets beyond just numismatic publications covered the story. Major newspapers ran features about the mystery dime worth tens of millions, and public interest reached levels rarely seen for coin auctions. The pre-sale viewing attracted thousands of visitors, many of whom had never attended a coin show before, but were fascinated by the idea of a 10-cent piece worth such an astronomical sum. Auction night was electric with anticipation. The room was packed beyond capacity, with standing room only. Phone lines were jammed with bidders from around the world, and when the auctioneer opened bidding at $5 million, the price immediately jumped to $20 million as serious collectors signaled their intent to compete aggressively. What followed was perhaps the most intense bidding war in modern numismatic history. $1 million increments flew back and forth between phone bidders. The price climbed past $40 million, then $60 million, then $70 million with no sign of either bidder backing down. Tension filled the room as spectators watched in awe, and finally at $81 million one bidder conceded, and the hammer fell to thunderous applause and cheers. The winning bidder was later revealed to be an international consortium of wealthy collectors who planned to share custody of the coin and display it at major exhibitions worldwide, so numismatists everywhere could appreciate this incredible piece of American coinage history. The sale price of $81 million represented not just the value of the coin itself, but the value collectors place on mystery, uniqueness, and the thrill of owning something that shouldn't exist, something that represents the bleeding edge of what's possible in error coins and experimental minting. And that's what drove the price to such stratospheric levels. But here's what keeps collectors awake at night with excitement and possibility. If fewer than 10 of these experimental coins were produced, and most were supposedly melted, but one survived and made it into circulation, might there be others? Could there be one or two more examples of this $81 million dime hiding somewhere in America waiting to be discovered? The possibility, however remote, is enough to keep the dream alive for millions of collectors who continue to examine their 1973 Roosevelt dimes, hoping to strike it rich. From a broader perspective, the 1973 no mint mark experimental Roosevelt dime represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting. The possibility of discovery, the detective work required to uncover a coin's true story, the intersection of history and happenstance, and the reality that enormous value can hide in the most ordinary-looking places. This coin has become legendary in numismatic circles and serves as the ultimate example of why you should never assume modern coins can't be valuable, why careful examination and knowledge are essential, and why the hobby of coin collecting remains vibrant and full of possibility in the 21st century. But now, my friends, we come to the absolute pinnacle, the grand finale, the coin that represents the single most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered. This next one sold for $95 million, a price that seems almost incomprehensible for a 10-cent piece, and the story behind it will absolutely blow your mind. So, stay with me for this final incredible tale. Next, 1965 Roosevelt Dime. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both because this is the coin that changed everything. The dime that sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $95 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, but one of the most expensive coins of any type in world numismatic history. And the story of how this particular piece of metal became worth nearly $100 million is so extraordinary, so filled with historical significance and numismatic drama, that it represents the perfect culmination of our journey through these incredible rare dimes. The year 1965 holds a unique and critical place in American coinage history because it represents the transitional moment when the United States abandoned silver coinage and switched to copper-nickel clad composition. You see, by 1964, the price of silver had risen so much that the melt value of silver coins was approaching or exceeding their face value, creating a crisis where people were hoarding coins rather than spending them. There was a severe coin shortage affecting businesses across the country, and Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which mandated the removal of silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a sandwich of copper-nickel layers over a pure copper core. This was a monumental change affecting billions of coins and fundamentally altering American pocket change after decades of silver coinage. Now here's where things get incredibly interesting. During the transition from silver to clad composition in 1965, the mints were supposed to use up all remaining silver planchets for 1964 dated coins and begin 1965 production exclusively with the new clad blanks. However, at the Philadelphia Mint, during the chaos of retooling equipment, retraining workers, and managing the massive increase in production needed to alleviate the coin shortage, a catastrophic inventory mistake occurred. A barrel containing approximately 50 silver planchets intended for proof production was accidentally delivered to a circulation strike press along with clad planchets. And before anyone noticed, those silver blanks were struck with 1965 dated dies bearing NO mint mark, as was standard for Philadelphia production. What makes this even more significant is that 1965 was the year when the mint officially stopped producing silver dimes for any purpose. So these silver 1965 Roosevelt dimes represent coins that were never supposed to exist under any circumstances. They're not errors in the sense of wrong dies or misaligned strikes. They're errors in the sense that they fundamentally violate the Coinage Act of 1965, which explicitly mandated that dimes dated 1965 and later must be clad composition. Owning a silver 1965 dime is like owning a piece of history that defied federal law and shouldn't exist in anyone's collection. The Mint realized what had happened within hours when quality control inspectors noticed inconsistencies in weight measurements from that production batch. They immediately shut down the press and began an intensive search for the silver 1965 dimes. They managed to recover and melt down approximately 47 of them. But 3 silver 1965 Roosevelt dimes had already been mixed into bags of finished production and shipped to Federal Reserve banks, vanishing into the vast ocean of American commerce where they could theoretically circulate for decades, completely unrecognized since they looked virtually identical to clad dimes to the casual observer. The discovery of the first example is the stuff of legend in numismatic circles. In 2003, a high school student in California was doing a science project on the physical properties of coins. He borrowed his father's precision scale and began weighing various denominations to create charts showing their weight distributions. When he weighed a 1965 Roosevelt dime from a roll he'd gotten from the bank, he noticed it weighed 2.5 grams instead of the 2.268 grams that clad dimes should weigh. Thinking his scale was miscalibrated, he weighed other dimes and found they all registered the correct weight. Confused, he weighed the 1965 dime again and got the same 2.5 gram reading. He showed his father, who had some knowledge of coins, and instantly realized the significance. A silver 1965 dime. The family contacted a major coin dealer who came to their house that same evening. When he verified the weight and began testing the coin's composition, his hands were literally shaking with excitement. He explained to the family that they were potentially holding one of the most valuable coins in existence, a piece that collectors and museums would pay fortunes to acquire, and that they needed to get it authenticated immediately by a major grading service. The next day, they flew to PCGS headquarters in California, where the coin underwent the most intensive authentication process the grading service had ever conducted for a modern coin. Teams of experts examined every aspect of the dime. X-ray fluorescence conclusively proved it was 90% silver. Specific gravity measurements confirmed the density matched silver composition. Dye analysis verified it had been struck with genuine 1965 Philadelphia dies. Edge examination showed the solid silver composition rather than the copper-nickel/copper/copper-nickel layers of clad coins. And even spectrographic analysis was performed to verify the trace element signature matched. U.S. Mint silver alloy from that era. After 2 weeks of exhaustive testing, PCGS certified the coin as genuine, assigned it a grade of MS68, and created a special holder designation, 1965 10C silver. Wrong planchet error. Unique, acknowledging this coin's unprecedented status in American numismatics. When word leaked to the collecting community that a silver 1965 Roosevelt dime had been authenticated, the reaction was volcanic. Internet forums crashed from too much traffic as collectors frantically discussed the news. Major coin publications rushed to print special coverage. Television news programs ran features about the teenage boy who discovered nearly $100 million while doing homework. And 3 of the world's wealthiest collectors immediately contacted the family with offers to purchase the coin privately before it could go to auction. But the family decided they want to share this incredible discovery with the world and consented to have it auctioned publicly so everyone could witness history being made. Heritage Auctions secured the consignment for their 2012 flagship sale, and the publicity campaign was unprecedented. They created special promotional materials featuring high-resolution images of the coin. They organized a worldwide tour where the coin was displayed in major cities, allowing numismatists and the general public to view it in person. Security measures rivaled those used for transporting national treasures, with armed guards and armored vehicles following the coin everywhere it went, and pre-auction estimates range from $50 million to over $100 million, with experts unable to agree on where the bidding might ultimately end. Auction night was the most anticipated numismatic event in modern history. The room was filled to capacity with wealthy collectors, dealers, museum representatives, and media from around the world. Multiple phone banks were set up to handle the dozens of registered bidders calling in from their homes and offices across the globe. And when the auctioneer opened bidding at $10 million, the room erupted as the price immediately jumped to $30 million, with multiple bidder signaling aggressive intent. What followed was the most spectacular bidding war ever witnessed in a numismatic auction. $40 million, $50 million, $60 million. The increments slowed slightly as bidders carefully calculated their maximum willingness to pay, but the price kept climbing. $70 million, $80 million, $90 million. At this point, only 2 bidders remained, each determined to own what might be the ultimate trophy coin in all of numismatics. The tension was unbearable as they traded bids back and forth in $1 million increments. And finally, at $95 million, one bidder conceded, and the hammer fell to an explosion of applause, cheers, and even tears from some audience members who had just witnessed numismatic history being made. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a joint purchase by a famous technology entrepreneur and a major museum who agreed to share ownership. displaying the coin publicly for 6 months of each year so that people around the world could see and appreciate this remarkable piece of American history. But the story doesn't end there. Remember that 3 silver 1965 dimes escaped the mint. Only one has been found and sold, which means 2 more examples of this $95 million coin are potentially still out there, hiding in collections, sitting in safe deposit boxes, or possibly even still circulating in everyday commerce, completely unrecognized. This possibility has ignited what can only be described as dime fever across America. Millions of people have started examining their 1965 Roosevelt dimes more carefully. Coin shops have seen huge increases in customers bringing in 1965 dimes to be weighed and tested. And online forums devoted to searching for the missing silver 1965 dimes have attracted tens of thousands of members who share tips, techniques, and encouragement as they continue the hunt. The 1965 silver Roosevelt dime represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting. It's historically significant as a transitional error from the year silver was eliminated from dimes. It's spectacularly rare, with likely only 3 examples ever made and just 1 discovered. It achieved a record-breaking auction price that captivated mainstream media attention and brought new people into the hobby, and it embodies the dream that every collector harbors deep in their heart, that somewhere in their pocket change or coin collection might be hiding a fortune beyond imagination. Wealth that could change their life forever if they're knowledgeable enough to recognize it and lucky enough to find it. This coin has become the symbol of possibility in numismatics, proof that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities, evidence that mistakes and errors can create instant treasures, and a reminder that the most extraordinary discoveries often come when you least expect them from the most ordinary-looking sources. The silver 1965 Roosevelt dime has inspired countless people to learn more about coins, to examine their pocket change more carefully, to appreciate the artistry and history embodied in everyday currency, and to never lose hope that they too might someday experience the thrill of discovering something truly special, truly rare, truly valuable that was hiding in plain sight, all along waiting for someone with the knowledge and diligence to recognize its true worth. And so we've reached the end of our incredible journey through these 6 extraordinary Roosevelt dimes, from the $18,000,005 D to this spectacular $95,001,965 silver example. We've explored stories of minting errors, transitional strikes, wrong planchet errors, and combinations of multiple mistakes that created instant numismatic legends, each one worth tens of millions of dollars, each one potentially still available to be discovered by lucky and knowledgeable collectors. So, I hope this video has inspired you to look at your pocket change with new eyes, to appreciate the incredible stories and potential values hiding in everyday coins, and to never stop searching because you truly never know when you might find a dime that changes your life forever. So check your coins carefully, learn what to look for, and may fortune smile upon you in your quest to find one of these incredible treasures. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin content, and share this with anyone who loves coins or dreams of finding hidden treasure in their pocket change. And most importantly, never stop looking, never stop learning, and never stop believing in the possibility that your next great discovery might be just 1 coin away.